Hi, today we will be talking about wetland, a case study of wetland on Ansupa Lake of Odisha. So here the picture is an original photo of Ansupa Lake, and you can see the condition of Ansupa Lake here. So wetlands are considered to be one of the richest biodiverse ecosystem, which include a diverse flora, which include a diverse fauna, water birds. You can see the diversity in fishes. You can see diversity in insects. You can see diversity in mollusks. So there is a huge range of diversity you can observe in such kind of ecosystem. So in a case study for Ansupa Lake, we have seen certain kind of visible wetland benefits that we generally know or we generally read when studying a wetland ecosystem. So what are those? There is a rich waterfalls or the water bird diversity. There is a rich aquatic flora. There is a rich wetland flora. When I say rich aquatic flora and rich wetland flora, there is a difference, because one is strictly grown in the aquatic habitat and the other one is grown outside of the aquatic habitat, though they prefer to be a wet habitat. So there is a rich fish diversity, there is a rich mollusca and insect diversity. We can get a huge lot of wild vegetables, we can get wild medicinal plants, we can get foods for birds. They feed on so many things, so many nuts, so many insects, so many fishes. So there is a diversity in feeding system of so many birds, and you can observe in wetlands that many migratory birds, they come and they feed upon the diverse fauna and flora. So what we have seen in this study is that the rich rich soil fertility is maintained in wetlands, and then there is a livelihood means for the people that live in and around the lake, especially such kind of wetlands. Then they can get grazing, so many kettles, so many flocks of goats, buffaloes, then cows, they come and graze to such area. There is a diversity of grasses, there is a unique mass of flora of wetlands, and we already know that wetlands are very important ecologically, because they clean the environment or they clean the water system. So these are some of the visible wetland benefits that we had observed during a small survey, and I will try to show you how. So here you can see the diversity of flora. There is a diversity of grasses, shrubs, herbs, there is trees, small trees, and then aquatic plants. So there is a huge diversity of flora. And water birds, these are very common water birds you will see in almost every wetland places. So you will see bronze wings jacana, you will see little cormorant, red wattled lapwing, purple swamp hen, white breasted water hen. These are some of the water birds that we had observed during the survey. So I had mentioned only this, but there is other, so many other wetland or water birds that come to such ecosystem, they feed on them. So Again, there are so many plant species which grow in mass growth in such kind of habitat, such kind of wetlands, or such kind near the lakes, near the wetlands. So one of these plants include Ipomia carnea. When you say Ipomia carnea, you will see almost they will grow in mass. Again, Centella asiatica. Centella asiatica is an important medicinal plant. They prefer moist area, and in such kind of wetland places, you will see them growing very richly. Again, in almost all the wetlands that I had come so far, this plant is almost everywhere in every kind of wetland habitat. So this is the one kind of a lily. Its name is Nymphia nocheli, and they are very massively grown in the aquatic region, or aquatic habitat in the wetland area. Okay, this is Persicaria pulchrum, that is grown in mass in almost all the wetland places, especially when there is a lake or water body associated with it. You will find this plant grown in mass. So one important another aspect is, in some places this plant is eaten as vegetables. So uh, this plant can be a interesting plant in future. So in the survey we observe a mass growth of lotus, which is Nilambo nucifera. So lotus is not grown in almost all the wetlands. They are very specific, uh, but Nymphia nocheli, or the lily that I had shown before, it is very common in almost all the wetland places, be it a small water area or a large water area or a wet places. You'll see Nymphia nocheli in so many places. So there is a rich grass diversity. I have shown here only some specific diversity of grasses, which include this grass, here another grass. Okay, there is three different grass here. There are less work uh, done in grass species, so this is a kind of good opportunity. So there is a diversity in the mollusca. So mollusca is very important in wetlands, because they are they are the food for the birds, water birds. So they play an important role in the food web. So there is a flora fauna interaction happening in the wetland. They are very closely associated with each other, and can be clearly seen in such kind of ecosystem, because the mollusks, the insects you will find, or the plant species such as lotus, or plant like Urel ferox, they the nuts of these plants, they are normally food for so many birds, water birds. And you can see water birds like cormorant, little cormorant, greater cormorant. They feed on fish species. And you can see how grass is so important. They you know cattle, they would be grazing on such grasses. So this is entirely an interaction between the flora and fauna, which is deeply closely associated to each other in this small ecosystem. So like I had said, we observe this bird, that is gray-headed purple swamp hen, feeding on the Ural ferox nuts. And so by saying Ural ferox nuts, you might confuse a little bit, because this is an aquatic plant. And for you to make it easier, I will tell that Ural ferox is nothing but the makhana that we eat. So makhana is prepared from these nuts, and normally in many places it has been confused with the nuts of or the seed of lotus. But yes, makhana is prepared from this plant, and makhana nuts and then lotus seeds, they are also food for birds. So here we had seen that gray-headed purple swamp hen feeding on nuts of makhana, or on nuts of Ural ferox. Okay, this is some of the wetland medicinal plants that we had observed, including Centella asiatica, Eclipta prostata, Solanum virginianum, Grangia madraspatana, Heliotropium indicum. So these are some of the medicinal plants which are observed in a good population in the Ansupa. So Centella asiatica, the whole plant acts as a brain tonic. You can eat it as vegetables, you can dry it and take it in powder form. Or Heliotropium indicum, the leaves of Heliotropium indicum is crushed, and you can apply it externally on your hair, so it cures hair lice. Solanum virginianum, it acts against teeth decay. The stem is useful for this. And then Gangria madraspatana, the leaves are crushed, and it is applied. It works very well against earache. And there is Eclipta prostata, it acts against hair fall. So these are some of the medicinal plants that we have observed in a rich population for the lake. So wetland wild vegetables, I have shown you only 3 species here, but there are a whole lot of wild vegetables you can get from wetland ecosystem. So the most common out of these 3 is Amaranthus viridis. These are mostly consumed by many people, and they can be seen selling in markets. And then Centella asiatica, they are also taken as vegetables. It's slightly bitter, but they are consumed as vegetables. And rarely seen is Cassia tora, because we have observed that some tribal communities, they dry the plant, that is Cassia tora, and during dry season or dry period, when they don't get much vegetables from the forest, they store Cassia tora and they take it as vegetables. So there are water indicator plants like Phyla nodiflora, and should be in small letter, Persicaria pulcherum, Dentella repens, Lipia javanica. So these are the plants, they indicate the availability of water, especially when there is a growth of Lipia javanica. You can confirm that within some 300 to 500 or less below that meter, there is a water body present. So these are some of the water indicator plants. Again, there are so many weeds and invasive flora that we have observed during the survey. One of these is Parthenium heterophorus, and then Croton bonplandianus. So you can see the mass growth of Croton bonplandianus. So once such kind of weeds and invasive flora, they grow and they keep on spreading, they inhibit, or there is a competition between the native flora and such plants. So they dominate over the native plant. So even if they have some kind of medicinal values or some kind of useful values, it's I think it's we should avoid, or we shouldn't take the importance of such weeds or invasive flora. Rather we should consider the native flora. So as much as you can, if you remove such kind of weed or invasive flora, it is better for the habitat, a certain habitat. So again, there are weeds like Iconia crucipis or water hyacinth. There is Mycenia macrantha. So these are weeds and invasive flora that can really affect the growth of native flora. So again, there is Hydrilla verticillata. This is a very serious kind of aquatic weed. Especially in this area, we observe the over a densely growth of Hydrilla verticillata. It looks like this on the left corner. So you can see how densely it is grown in this lake. So I think this is a serious problem or serious infestation of this plant. So let's talk about how wetland or such kind of habitat can be a rich habitat. So that when we say we call it a certain place a wetland, when such kind of place is either covered with water the whole year, or sometimes covered seasonally. So what happens is these places in rainy season they are covered wholly with water, and sometimes in certain places they dried up. So the aquatic plants that lies in certain places, when it dries up, they decompose, and then they can make the soil fertile. Another thing is the wet habitats are also a home for many insects, and insects, they are the food for so many birds and fishes. So they can be they can create a food web through such kind of uh, act, phenomena. So like I had said, there are there such kind of wetlands. They can be a place where you can see adaptation and evolution. So when I say adaptation and evolution, you can clearly see in this plant. So this is not mimosa, but this you can also call it as water mimosa. So this plant, when it grows in water, it has a certain characteristic that is character that is developed, that is the spawns develop on top of the stem. So this spawn helps the plant to float over the water. But when this plant it twines over the terrestrial land, so slowly they loses its spawns when they grow on the terrestrial part. So it shows a kind of adaptation, when for the growth in water as well as on terrestrial land. So this is how a small adaptation works, and slowly such kind of adaptation can create evolution, and such kind of habitat is very crucial, or is a place where evolution starts. So there are many people or many communities that live that rely on the lake for their livelihood, means especially for fishing. So you can see the pollution. There are so many plastic pollution. There are some overgrowth of weeds. The condition is so bad for this lake, uh, which is all when they say uh, the largest freshwater lake, it should be, you know, well maintained, I suppose. But there is a huge and you know, serious infestation of the aquatic weed, that is hydrilla verticillata, and I think there is a urgent need for the removal of uh, hydrilla verticillata. And as a recommendation, what we can do is, once the hydrilla verticillata is removed, we can introduce salvinia species, we can introduce ipomia aquatica, we can introduce neptunia oleracea. So why I had recommended these plants is because they, salvinia species, they purify the water. So it can help to clean the water in the of the lake. Again, ipomia aquatica and neptunia oleracea, they help in the absorption of pollutants, including heavy metals. So they can help to absorb such kind of pollutants. So I think, you know, it is recommended that hydrilla verticillata is removed, and such kind of you know, ecologically friendly plant species are introduced in such places, so we can save the lake from degradation. So that is something about the largest freshwater lake of Odisha, that is Ansupa Lake. Thank you. That's all for now. Thank you.